To me, the most intriguing question of training camp, besides who looks good, who looks bad, is how's the offense going to be different? Brought us up to this time, gave us the best answer when he was talking about the wide receiver formations and the bunches and the stacks on Friday when we had him on the show before flying out. This does a tremendous job, I think. So let's go through it. And then we'll get to best and worst of the weekend and the Rangers 4-pack giveaway. Cowboys players keep hearing the question about pass plays. What's the step count, coaches ask, waiting to confirm how many steps Dak will take when it's time to execute the pass concept they're discussing. But the question is not being directed just to Prescott. It's everyone, including the receivers. They are now tasked with tracking this information. Michael Gallup, quote, "This is the first year we've really had to key in on how many steps Dak is taking so we know how fast the ball is coming out. The coaches harp on that every day. The Cowboys are shifting their offensive system more drastically than they have since Dak earned his starting role in 2016. Mike McCarthy and Brian Schottenheimer believe introducing more West Coast principles will bolster ball security and decisiveness. They believe this shift will increase how often quarterbacks and receivers are on the same page." Quote from CeeDee Lamb, "I can run my routes more comfortably knowing that Dak is done with his drop or that he's not getting touched or that he's protected." Remember, he told us in our sit-down interview, by the third step, both should know what way the route is going. We're talking about the option routes and taking all that out.
CD's third step when he's
third
running.
step. CD continued, "I feel like the speed that we have in this room, guys that can track the ball, the mentality will help us get open, create separation. It just can't be too early because then it's quickening up Dak's steps and it's a whole different situation. Being on the same timing is very important for us."
It's bold. If you're wanting to reduce mistakes, if you're wanting to reduce communication issues, and they believe that you are putting a lot of weight on the communication being dead on. And that's one of the things that we've talked about a lot is the fact that the receivers have to be more in tune with Dak's steps. Everything you hear, CD saying it there, that if you're quickening up the steps, you're too early, it's going to throw everything off, and then the ball's going to be in a place where the receiver is not. And look, if the communication issues are the same last year, then bet the over on the interceptions. Because if they still have these issues, they are not going to be in the right place because it is all timing based. It is all based off of you are exactly where you're supposed to be and exactly where the ball is supposed to be. And there are going to be instances if the timing is not right, if their communication is not right, that a defensive back is going to be standing where the receiver should and the ball's going to go right into their arms. So you've got to make sure that all this communication talk we've heard this offseason is not just talk. It's not just rhetoric. It's a reality, and they've genuinely worked on it.
Scale of 1 to 10, how drastic is the scheme change they're doing?
From a timing and rhythm standpoint, it's significant.
So when Brady went to Tampa, that lasted about 6 to 8 weeks. And they said, finally, Tom, we're going to go back to your scheme. And I wonder, if this doesn't work in the first 6 to 8 weeks, are they going to go back?
Well, I mean, the 6-week mark, we've talked about it. The 6-week mark is back-to-back games against the 49ers and the Chargers. And if they, if things don't go well in those two games and they're struggling through the first 6 weeks, man, it's really tough to just overhaul and say we're going to completely throw out the system and the scheme that we've thrown in there. They can make some tweaks, but they can't do an entire overhaul.
More from Jory Epstein's Yahoo article. The difference between Dak taking a 3-step drop that will launch the ball to its target in 1.7 seconds versus a 5-step drop that skews closer to 2 seconds. Brian Schottenheimer gives an example. It can be the difference between a completion and interception. Since Dak entered the league, no quarterback has had more dropped pass interception. I'm going to read this one more time for all the Dak haters. Furthermore, since Dak entered the league, no QB has had more dropped passes intercepted than his 9. Matt Ryan's tied. So Dak and Matt Ryan have led the league in passes that should have been caught that have turned into interceptions. The Cowboys are drilling receiver route depth intensely at training camp. Prescott and his receivers communicating extensively in post-practice film review sessions about what each saw on a play and how that transitioned to success or failure. They're discussing how a new set of pass protection rules influences the time Prescott has to throw. But what is McCarthy changing up front? Like when they're talking about, Jerry's like, we're going to be narrower and we're changing up some things up front. Do we know what they're doing pass protection wise? Well, the tinkering to the offensive line?
Not specifically in that sense. I mean, we'll see, it'll be something that once it's implemented, you'll see a little bit closer to what Mike Solari's vision is. One of the things that's definitely going to change that we've talked about this a little bit off the air, but I don't know how much we've talked about it publicly, but I mean, there was a lot on Dak's shoulders in terms of offensive line responsibilities last year, that he was making a ton of checks that were not normal for him. In terms of the entire left side of the offensive line was his responsibility last year.
That's like veteran quarterbacks, though. That's
No.
Quarterback sets protection.
No. But I'm telling you, the left side of the offensive line, it's not normal for him to make every check that the left tackle is supposed to be making. He is making all the checks that the left tackle and the left guard were supposed to be making, because Joe Philbin thought the left tackle, Tyler Smith, was too inexperienced, and he thought the left guard, Connor McGovern, just frankly, fair or not, I'm not saying I agree with this, but Joe Philbin didn't think he was smart enough. And so because of that, the entire Connor McGovern at left guard. So McGovern and Smith weren't making the normal checks that a left side of an offensive line would make. And so that was all ending up on Dak. Dak was having to make all the calls and all the reads that they normally would. And so I would guess part of the changes, too, are going to be the fact that the left side is going to be able to make their calls. And that wasn't the case last year.
Prescott is energized by the shift in approach, saying he is as confident and happy as he has been in the league. Quote, it's just crazy amount of detail. Guys are on the same page, just being very open and communicating. That has been a world of difference. This does make me a little bit concerned that word is coming out that Dak is not going to play a preseason snap.
Don't love that.
Because of the new... Yeah, I mean, Mahomes last year played quite a bit, in part because they were breaking in some new players. But, veterans typically don't play all that often, if at all, in the preseason. But when you have a new system, I think it's different. I think you kind of have to. Whether or not, it's a drastic scheme change or not, I think you do have to play a little bit in that new system.
Now, look, they could come out and be up 14-0 on the Giants. The first two drives could be perfect. It's kind of one of those, right. There's no right answer, right? It gets solved and answered the first 2 or 3 drives of your regular season. Oh, they needed the rust. Oh, they didn't need the rust. But it just sounds like it would make sense for them to implement some of this in the exhibition games.
Well, and even typically, I mean, last year there was discussion that was like, okay, well, it doesn't matter so much that Dak's not going to play in the preseason if he's getting these mixed practices with the Chargers and the Broncos. Doesn't matter as much because you are getting different looks, you are getting challenged, and you're getting those reps in that way. And it's in a more controlled environment that you can get more done. And so that sort of argument has always been like, okay, all right, that's fine if you're not going to play a preseason game because you are getting different looks and practicing against different folks. That's not the case this year. They chose not to practice against any other teams, and they are implementing a new system. And so I would at least like a couple series out there at game speed that they could prepare for, that they could recognize instantly. Oh, okay, this is something we need to iron out. Like, this wasn't right once we saw it at game speed. You guys need to work on this. I don't love that it's not happening, but I also understand wanting to protect your quarterback.
Yeah, Micah. Make sure you protect him, too, in practice. So that is Jory Epstein's article on the changes between Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, and the Cowboys offense. But the headlines all throughout the country is Dak sees a world of difference in Cowboys offense this year. Really nice job by Jory. Anything else?
No, just, I mean, I think that the important thing here is going to be, again, that, and we've heard it all this offseason, is their timing and is their communication. And they've really got to make sure this is not what it's been the last year or so, which is just talking about it.
Let me ask this,
we got to
though.
improve this.
For Dak Prescott, and try to be balanced a little bit, Bobby.
I'm balanced AF.
For Dak Prescott, is it better to have a system where 3-step drop, bam, here. We're not including the option routes, more direction and no thinking on where to go. 1, 2, 3, this is it. Versus sometimes Dak gets in trouble when it's a second hitch and surveying the field a little bit And that's where I feel like he struggles a little bit versus more rhythm. 1, 2, 3 back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 back, and go with it. Is this calling for more decisiveness is what I'm trying to ask, one. And two, if it is calling for more decisiveness, is that better or worse for him?
Would you prefer the offense be...
Because we've been hearing about less thinking, like take more off of his plate, even though he's going to have more control.
Yeah, more muscle memory. More just, this is what it is,
yes.
and it comes out. You step back, and the ball comes out. Would you prefer he be in a system that, and I'll answer your question first with a question. Would you prefer he be in a system that he feels most comfortable with?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
That's a trick question.
It is.
But I also that person needs to know their strengths and weaknesses.
He's not happy the option routes are out.
Right.
He's not happy with that. And he thinks that was a big check in their favor that he's talked about consistently. On the record, he's talked about it, that you guys see the times it goes wrong. You do not see the times. You have no clue when we checked into an option route because you just see the play hit.
Yeah.
And you think that was the play and that's the way it was designed. You guys have no idea what a high rate we hit these things at.
Yeah.
And what needs to be fixed, if you're going to emphasize communication and fixing all that anyway, and if it's really been fixed the way it needs to be, then the option routes shouldn't be the problem that they were. Now, look, I think there's going to be some limited use of option routes still, but it's not going to be to the amount that he wants it. Because the idea of an option route clearly is on the fly, audibling basically to what the coverage is showing you. And he's not going to have the same sort of options this year.
Look, if I was Dak, I'd be very, not upset, but man, we've been like top 5 in offense, like basically every year for the last several years I've been here.
Yep.
Why are we changing things up drastically? So I'd be a little bit perturbed if I was Dak on that part. But I mean, generally, I would like to see a quarterback be comfortable in the offense. Obviously, not generally. I would like to see him be comfortable in the offense, and then the less thinking that to do, just take more off their plate. That's totally fine. Does it fit him best? I mean, I personally think Dak's, at least early on in his career, maybe post-injury, I have to go back and think more of that. But, when he's been able to move, that's when he's been at his best, to me. But, maybe in the last couple of years, it hasn't been that way.
I think that it's also important to realize that there's a couple things I took away from Cowboys camp when we were out there. And I think McCarthy acknowledged this in as McCarthy a way as possible when he talked to us on Thursday. They're not, for all of anyone who's hoping that, all right, the switch over away from Kellen Moore is going to mean a huge increase in motion. Nope. No, it is not. It's probably going to limit it.
Yeah.
In fact, when we were out there, I was talking about this with Broadus yesterday. The only time I really noticed consistent motion was on the goal line. I think first and goal situations, goal to go situations, you're going to see more motion. They definitely try and do some things to free up guys like Turpin and Deuce Vaughn and do different things like that. You'll see some of that, but this is going to be less motion. The fact that, and Jory's article talks about it, the emphasis on a 3-step drop instead of a 5-step drop and how quick you can get the ball out. Think about getting the ball out quick also limits how much you can let stuff develop downfield. This offense is not going to take a lot of shots downfield. I know what CD said about backup and everything else, and that's fair, and Brandon Cooks and the ability he has. I'm telling you, what we see at these practices and what the coaching staff is telling you they're emphasizing, they do not add up to taking a lot of shots downfield, just naturally. And so what you're going to see, as typical with the classical West Coast offense, is a lot of quick strike, catch and run type of offense, not so much longer developing deep shots downfield.
Make Zach Martin even less important. 3 steps, screw the offensive line. Brian Schottenheimer, the offensive coordinator in name, what are his game day responsibilities? Now that he's not calling the plays, Schottenheimer was on the Fan Friday.
It's going to be a little different for me. I mean, again, for 14 years calling the plays, you're the guy getting all the information. You're the guy that everybody's feeding you. Okay, here's what we're getting on first, second down. These are some of the adjustments we got to make. And now it's my role, along with the staff, to gather all this information, tie it together, present it to Mike to where not only what they're doing, but really, let's be honest. I mean, the bottom line is when you're talking about offensive football, there's a focus and the attempt to, hey, we're going to do what we do. So I'll be the guy working closely with the staff to communicate to Mike, hey, here's how they've changed, or hey, they're staying with what we expected they do, and then tie that into schematically what we want to do to offset what they're doing. And so, again, it's basically processing a ton of information, both what we're doing, what we're having success with, and then comparing that to the defense, and then giving him feedback that helps him call the plays and feel good about the flow. Because calling a game is all about flow and routine. And, again, hey, they're thinking we're doing this and we're doing that. And that's the magic of a great play caller.
Wow, what a great job, Ryan. Syncing up Schottenheimer with the KMC video with the sound clip. And I had only called for that about 30 minutes ago. What?
Ryan waved.
I waved. Nice job. That's synced up right there on Twitch and the fan cam. That's why I wanted Schottenheimer on the show. Now we were told he won't wake up that early. He's not doing the early wake up, but that was a great answer.
We woke him up already, though. I thought.
Yeah.
Didn't we wake up the whole complex? So shouldn't they all have been awake for a few hours?
Listen, I figured just somebody who likes to run the ball as much as he does is older, and old people wake up early in the morning.
I will give him credit for this. As much as you R2P2 him, and I still can't remember. I think that was the 682 somewhere out there that came up with that, which is a great nickname.
Everybody on the fan text came up with it. It was like 500 of them.
It's a great nickname, but I will say he is effective, and you can see it in Jory's article too. He is an effective communicator in terms of the concepts. He does a good job of explaining it and having it make sense. We'll see if it makes as much sense once they're out there actually trying to execute this.
All right, I wasn't going to play this, but RJ took the running back cheap shot. Here's and he was really good with the first answer. Here's Schottenheimer on what the run game will look like.
We're going to play based on, our guys and what we've done well. Like the Cowboys have run the ball well here, okay? We're going to continue that. But literally to sum it up very simply is say this. When you're a good running football team, which we were in Seattle in 2018, and we were a couple times with the Jets, leading the league in rushing, which I think we're going to be really, really good this year. You have to be able to run the football when the defense knows you're going to run the damn football, whether that's 4-minute, whether that's a goal line short yard situation, right? It's easy for us to trick people at times, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're a great running football team. It's when they've got the box loaded, they've got the linebackers toughed up, they're trying to run through gaps, they're trying to distort your blocking schemes, but you know what? You can still run the football well. And a huge part of that is the belief and the identity that when we stand up in front of the group, that the receivers buy in. CD, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, that they know that their responsibility is in the running game. They got to kick ass, and they have to get after the safeties and get after the corners, and all that it does is set up what? Your play action passing game. And so our identity is we know we want to be able to run the football when people know, hey, damn, they're running the football and they can't stop us.
Don't like that.
What?
Don't like any of that. That's the old Jason Garrett line from All or Nothing. We're gonna line the ball up. They know we're gonna hand it to 21, knock them on their ass. No, we don't just want to trick people into thinking we're gonna throw the ball, and then that's exactly what you want to do. Actually, is you want to create the numbers that make sense for you to run the ball. That's
a soft way of doing things, Bobby.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Of course you disagree.
I like this. No, I like just line it up. My balls are bigger than yours, and that's all I like to say. These are alphas out there, okay? We're not. Lou Holtz said, "The moment you play trickery football."
That surprises me because I thought that we've been critical when they have more men in the box, and it's clear that you should not be running the football just to prove your manhood.
Oh no! That to me.
That's the same thing we're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's when you purposely scrunch everybody together.
Like ram your head against the wall.
Yeah, that's what you purposely do.
He just said he was going to do that.
No, but he's talking about when the defense, the defense is lining up, they're going to sell out, to stop the run. You're still spread. That's what I'm talking about. That I would like to see them do. But in general, I like that about it. I don't like this Sean McVay trick it up stuff. I like the Jason Garrett. My guys are better than your guys, and we're going to show you that.
This feels like the mid-range game and basketball argument all over again.
I feel like that at all. It feels like my talent's better than your talent. We don't use coaching. Okay, we don't use scheme. We just line it up, and we play better because we're stronger and we're bigger and we're more manly.
RJ Choppy, big run game fan.
No,
as
I hate the run
long
game.
Established.
My receivers are better than yours. My quarterback's better than yours. Let's win the game.